Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this past year many people have been impressed with the latest iPhone 13 devices, but also many people have concerns and have asked me to do a device comparison as far as the displays are concerned. So this is something I typically do every year so we can take a look at how they're different as far as their color accuracy. And again this year, iPhone 13 series phones have won awards for color accuracy as being the most color accurate phones out there. They look fantastic this year, and last year quite a few people had concerns about yellow tint, where the phone looked to be a little bit more warm than it should be, and that was definitely a concern for some, but many others, including myself, thought it was just due to color accuracy. However, the displays look a little bit different this year. And so not only do we have newer phones with different displays because we have 120 Hertz ProMotion, we also have possibly different color calibrations. So I thought I'd show you some different backgrounds and see how they compare year over year. There's been concerns about red tint on the latest phones, and so I thought we'd check that out as well at lower brightnesses. Some people have said they've seen that. And as far as ProMotion and PWM, we'll take a look at that as well. Now, as far as the devices here, we have some from every generation as far as a few back, and the iPhone 8 Plus is the first to start on the left. So we have two LCD phones. We have the 8 Plus, then the iPhone 11, which you can still get. Then we have the iPhone 11 Pro Max, then the 12 mini, and the 12 mini had the worst tint of any of my phones last year. And then we have the iPhone 12 Pro Max, the iPhone 13 mini, 13, 13 Pro, and 13 Pro Max. Now, all of these phones are set up the exact same way. In the display settings, if we go to settings, under display, every one of them has True Tone turned off and night shift turned off, as well as auto brightness off. So all of the brightnesses are set the same. So on all the phones, if we take a look at the brightness, you'll see that they're the same on every single one of them. So we're at about the top of the do not disturb button on all of them, or screen mirroring button, whatever shows up for you. But we're at the top of those buttons, and that's the screen brightness on all of them. So they're set about the same. Now, the newer phones are going to be a little bit brighter displays in general, just because they are from the factory. They have higher brightness levels, so they could vary slightly, but this gives you a general idea. Now, as far as the backgrounds, let's take a look at a white background. And this is a background that I created. It's pure white. And all I did was create it in Pixelmator Pro and then export it and then airdrop it to all of these devices. And I have 3 different backgrounds to share. And as you can see already, that the backgrounds look dramatically different on some of the phones. So from right to left, with the newest phones, the 13 Pro and the 13 Pro Max, they look extremely similar to me. Under this light, we're at 5400K daylight, and they look extremely similar. Again, with the 13 mini and the 13, they look very similar. But the Pro versions look a little different, and maybe that's because they have variable refresh rate displays with ProMotion. Again, going to the 12 series phones, they do seem to have a little bit more yellow tint to them. So they are a little bit warmer, and they have a very similar look between both of the displays. The 11 Pro Max looks more similar to the 13 mini and 13, and then the LCDs look dramatically different. So you can see that here. So if I turn the brightness up a little bit, since they are a little bit more dim compared to the others, still it looks dramatically different. So the displays are calibrated differently as LCDs. Typically LCDs will hold their color accuracy longer, such as the Pro Display XDR, and OLEDs will sort of fade in the green areas over time, but so far everything looks to be holding up well. Now, I also have a gray background I created, so we could take a look at that. So again, these were created for the 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max size phones. So I do have to zoom a little bit on the 8 Plus. But if we swipe over here, this is the exact same background on all of them. Again, I airdropped it. And similarly, again, all of the matched pairs that I talked about before look the same. The LCDs look dramatically different, and so gray will look a little bit different on all of them. I think the best looking probably to me are the new 13 series, 13 mini, 13, and the Pros. But the Pros do look a little bit darker under this light with this same background. Now again, I did create another background, pure black, since LCDs don't turn off the pixels for black. I thought we'd take a look at that and take a look at all of the OLEDs that way. So as you can see here, these look pure black from what I can tell. All of them do. It's very hard under this light to tell the difference. However, I would say the 11 Pro Max actually seems a little bit bright under this, and maybe the 12 mini. But the 13 series look to be pure black to me when it comes to that. So they all look pretty good. The 13 series definitely are the best when it comes to that. Now, the good news is on the newer phones, I've not heard anyone complain of green tint at all. So I wouldn't expect that on the newer phones. However, if you have a 12 mini or a 12 Pro Max that has green tint and you're still having it, well, we thought last year that Apple would fix that with a software update. They haven't done that. So if you're having that issue on, say, a 12 mini and you just got it, maybe you want to bring it in and have them make sure that it's color accurate and that it's correct, if that's a problem that's bothering you. I find that it's very hit or miss depending on who you ask. So, and it typically is under low brightness. I don't normally have my phone at very low brightness, so I don't see it. But yellow tint is definitely there, and that's just the way the phones are calibrated on the 12 series. The 13s look a lot better. Now, as far as the red tint issue, well, one person I saw on a forum said that in order to replicate that, what you would have to do is go into your accessibility settings, then go down to your display, turn on auto brightness, then maybe go to a white background, and turn the brightness all the way down. And then there would be red fringing around the outside. And as you can see from this forum post, there is some red tinging on some people's phones. I've not been able to reproduce this myself under any circumstance or any lighting condition. So I've not seen it on this phone, so it seems to be, again, very hit or miss for those of you experiencing it. I haven't seen it on any of these phones, and it obviously is a problem for some. And if it bothers you, well, then I might bring it to Apple. However, typically you're not going to see it because you're at a very low brightness, rarely unless you're in dark environments. And if you're looking for a specific issue, there will be specific issues to some different displays. It's just the nature of the display. However, it shouldn't stand out in any situation. So maybe you're watching HDR content. If you're seeing red around the outside, well, then maybe it's an issue and you could have them take a look. It is a pro display, so I would expect it to be very color accurate. Now, so far, we have not seen a fix for green tint, like I said, on the 12 Pro Max series phones. So at this point, I really don't expect any sort of update. So unfortunately, that's the current situation with that. However, if you want to change your color and there's issues with them that bother you, you can definitely do that. So if we take a closer look, let's zoom in a little bit here. If you want to adjust the display, there's a few things I would recommend if your display is bothering you. First of all, I always turn off True Tone, and the reason is I want the display to look as color accurate as possible. When you turn it on, it changes it to look more paper white, which typically has a little bit more yellow or warmer look to it. It's something that I don't like. If you're editing photos or video, it's going to change the overall look, and that's not what people are going to see if they don't have a True Tone display. So I typically recommend turning that off if you're editing photo or video. Again, night shift will make it very yellow. So if we enable this, you'll see it looks very yellow as soon as I do that. So I would typically not enable those unless you want to use them before you're going to bed. Then of course you could do that. But if you want to adjust it a little bit more, you can go under accessibility, and under accessibility, if we go down to our display, under display, we have different color filters. We can reduce the white point, of course. That will help in certain situations. And also color filters. So if we want to turn on a color filter and change it to our liking, we can do that. Although this is something that if you're really trying to adjust it to be color accurate, it's better to usually leave it alone, but you can adjust it and try and make it as accurate as possible for you. So you have that ability. Now, when it comes to PWM on all of these displays, well, OLED displays are going to have it. However, with this year's model of phones, I find it to be even better than last year. Now, PWM is a way for the displays to control brightness. It's how just about every OLED out there works, especially on phones. Some TVs don't have it, though. But what it does is when you move the brightness slider up or down, the brighter it is, the faster it flickers, and typically at the brightest setting, it just is full on. And so what it will do is flicker the display faster or slower to bring that brightness down. You perceive the slower flickers as lower dimness, or we see that as a dimmer display. That's how that works, and it's just the way they all work. LCD displays don't do this. They just turn the brightness up or down. And so this can cause some people to feel nauseated, give them headaches, and I started to see this on the iPhone X. As we got to the newer phones, it started to get better and better. If the PWM rate is lower, it will bother more people's eyes, but about 1 in 10 people have this issue, myself included. However, when we got to the 12 series phones, it was pretty much non-existent, and especially with the 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max, it's even hard to pick up under slow motion. So let's take a look at that so I can show you. So if we go into the camera, we'll go to slow-mo, and we'll record here. You can see the difference between the displays. So here's all of the iPhone 13 series phones as we're recording those in slow motion. And then if we look at maybe the middle phones here, the 12, the 11, and the 11 Pro Max, you're going to see a difference. However, with LCD displays, there's no flicker whatsoever. So you're not going to have that issue. So it won't bother your eyes at all as far as that goes. But in general, the newer phones definitely seem to be less bothersome to my eyes and cause less eye strain, so they're much better as far as that goes. Now, the 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max have ProMotion this year, which refreshes the display at 120 Hz or can bring it down to 10 Hz. That's not related to PWM. However, if we slide these phones over, we can take a look at what the difference is. So you can see this just between the 13 and the 13 Pro under slow-mo again if I swipe left to right. So let me show you that. So as I swipe left to right, you'll see the difference in smoothness. You can definitely see this with your eyes, and under slow-mo it just shows it a little bit better as there's no jitter or less jitter with the 13 Pro Max as you scroll between both displays. So going back and forth, you can see the smoothness overall. So this year, all the displays seem to look really good on the new phones, and the 12 series phones, again, are a little bit warmer. It doesn't bother me, but it may bother some people. So if you're thinking about getting a 12 series phone and that bothers you, I would wait and get the 13 when it's available. But the 11 is still available, and they do look great, and most people, you're not going to see the difference unless you put them side by side. Again, when you go into photos and things, you really won't see that difference until they're side by side. So most people won't even notice with day-to-day use, but there's definitely a difference with the newer phones, and I think they look a lot better this year. But let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you there, and hopefully that clarified some of the questions you had about the displays. If you'd like to get your hands on the wallpaper, of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.